Let's talk about the peace deal signed between the Democratic Republic of Congo and the Republic of Rwanda in the United States. This is supposed to be the deal that will end the 30 plus years of war that have destroyed that part of the continent. I'm talking about the eastern part of DRC, where 10 plus million people have been unalived, the environment or the villages destroyed, all the things that we know about this conflict since it started in 1997, somewhere around there. What is the meaning of this deal? How can we understand it in a correct context? That is what we are going to talk about in this podcast. But before that, I would like to ask you to please subscribe to our channel in order to strengthen our voice, because this is the voice of the people. Peace and love, freedom and decolonization to all African people, those at home, those abroad, and those in the future. If you have two shoes, please sell one and buy a sword, because now it is time for revolution, and this revolution is in the mind. Once again, welcome to our weekly rendezvous where we talk about issues important to us as African people. On behalf of African Continental Unity Party, please receive our revolutionary greetings. My name is King Kabbalah. As we said from the beginning, we are going to talk about the conflict between DRC and Rwanda and the peace deal which was signed 2 days ago in the United States of America. On this program, I want to answer to 4 fundamental questions. The first question is there really war between DRC and Rwanda, or there is aggression? And the second question that I want to attend to is why Congo requested the mediation of Donald Trump in these conflicts. And the third question would be what made this peace deal flawed? Yes, on set, I will tell you the deal itself is flawed, and I will explain to you why it was flawed. It is flawed. And the last question is what can we expect from this in the coming days, coming weeks, and coming months? Well, let's delve into this. First thing first, is there war between DRC and Rwanda? Because this is the common word used, the war in Congo between DRC and Rwanda. I think when we talk about war, we have to see a situation where we count casualties on both sides. We speak about war in Ukraine because there are casualties on both sides. Either in Russian side or Ukrainian side, we can count casualties. We can talk about war in the context of the 12-day wars that happened between Iran and Israel because there were destruction or casualties on both sides. We can talk about the Palestinian situation and Israel as a situation of war because both parties are engaged in mutual destruction. But in DRC, it is not really correct to talk about war because we don't remember the time that since this whole situation started, we don't remember when DRC or Congolese army went into Rwanda, burned villages, destroyed lives and livelihoods, caused a lot of destruction. We're talking about 10 million plus death, mostly on the Congolese side, not on the Rwandese population. So we can call this aggression, to be more precise, instead of calling it a war. Rwanda, since 1996, has been making incursion in DRC directly through its military forces, which is the Rwandese army, or through some sponsored or some backed rebellions to create the chaos to account for all the destruction that we're talking about today in DRC. So the precise word to use here is invasion, aggression, rather than war. And as we're speaking right now, there are 2 provinces of DRC, North Kivu and South Kivu, who are under siege, who are under the control of a rebellion movement backed up by Rwandese army, because they're talking about 5,000 Rwandese troops in DRC backing up this M23 rebel movement. So this was just to lay the ground so that everyone must understand the context of this conflict. It is not a war between two countries, it's rather the aggression. Now, the leading question or the other question may be, why is Rwanda trying to aggress to invade the DRC? And the answer is very simple. The answer is to dominate, to oppress, and to exploit. So it has been established that the attitudes of Rwandese government, sometimes even of Tutsi people generally, has been to dominate, to establish themselves as a dominant group in this part of Africa over the Bantu people. And if you are aware of the history, you will remember that there has been a project called a Volta Nation. The aim was to have this part of the country of the Congo, eastern part of the Congo, which is rich in mineral resources, being transformed in a new country called a Volta Nation, controlled by Tutsi people. This is something that has been already planned and discussed. So the aim is to control, to dominate, and to exploit. And in the process, they happen to move out of that region the local population, who are the Bantu population, by unaliving them. Hence, we're talking about 10 million plus. Some are talking about 15 million people. And this is a genocide which often we don't hear being talking about by your mainstream media. So you can also understand this intention in 1996 when the American government wanted to get rid of Mobutu, who was the president of Zaire back then, now DRC, who was also a greatest ally of the United States of America in the region during the whole period of Cold War. He was on their paycheck. It was the CIA, the CIA on the CIA paycheck. He's the one who helped them to get rid of Lumumba. So he was their prince in the on the continent back then. So when they realized that they cannot use him anymore because of the Cold War ended, they had to thank him in the way that they always thank people who have been their allies, as way in the same way that they thanked Muammar Gaddafi, the same way they thanked Saddam Hussein. That's how they thanked Mobutu. This reminds me of what Kissinger said, that it is a dangerous thing to be an enemy of America, but it is fatal to be its ally. So you may think that you are in the right position because you are an ally of America, but when they want to get rid of you, they will thank you in the best way they know how to thank you. So what I wanted to say is that in 1996, when the USA wanted to get rid of Mobutu, they made use of Rwanda with some Congolese people such as Laurent Desire Kabila in order to overthrow Mobutu regime and to establish another regime. So the deal that was signed at that time was that when Kabila get to power, must cede the eastern part of Congo to Rwanda. It means Rwanda must take control of that part of DRC, but not just that part of DRC. Rwanda must be in charge of the whole Congo. And that's the reason why we had in the past, or at that time, we had the Minister of Defense in DRC, who was a Rwandese citizen. His name was James Kabarebe, and he's still alive today, and is currently working in the Rwandese army as Secretary of Defense. He was also the Secretary of Defense of DRC. So the intention of Rwandese government, or Tutsi people, generally speaking, has been to establish themselves as the dominant group in that part of the continent. And this is something that has been documented by a lot of scholars. And we have to talk about this as Pan-Africanism, because Pan-Africanism cannot succeed if some of us have these attitudes or mindset of domination and conquer, a domination and oppression of other fellow Africans. Pan-Africanism cannot work. Now, let's get to the point of why then the Congo appealed, or the Congolese government appealed to the United States, or requested the mediation of Donald Trump to bring peace between Rwanda and Congo. The answer is simple as well, because Congo was losing the ground. As we have to remember, beginning of this year, Congo has lost the two provinces, which is the North and South Kivus, by the Rwandese-backed rebellion of M23. So, looking that it was losing the ground and it could have lost more ground, then it had to, the leadership in DRC had to appeal, or had to request the mediation of the powerful country, or one of the powerful countries in the world, which is the United States of America. And the mindset of the Congolese leaders was that, okay, we're going to America, we ask them to come and take over the mineral resources that we have, which Chinese have been exploiting now for some time. And we ask them to take these things and impose peace through their power in DRC by a way of kicking out the rebellion, or ask or demand that Paul Kagame retreat his troops from DRC so that we can live in a situation of peace. That was the mindset. But at their surprise, the deal ended up involving Rwanda as well, as we saw it's being signed 2 days back in the United States of America. But the most important question, I think, is what made this deal flawed? What made it flawed? What makes it even difficult to be achieved is the context, or the text of the agreement itself. In the text, firstly, there's no official recognition that Congo is being aggressed as we're speaking right now. They don't talk about aggression. They rather talking about security measures taken by Rwanda against a group of Hutu genocidal who left Rwanda in 1994 after Rwanda genocide and flew in DRC. Not even flew in DRC. The international community requested the president of DRC, Mobutu back then, to accept these people, but they didn't disarm them. They allowed them to cross the frontier with their guns in the DRC, and they established themselves there. So since 1994, Rwanda always justifies its presence in Congo by hunting down these Hutu genocidal who have been hiding in DRC. But the point is, we have not seen these Hutus making incursion in Rwanda, killing people there, destroying villages, the things that we have seen in DRC being committed by either directly the Rwandese army or its backed rebellions in DRC. But they justify themselves by that to hunt down the Hutu genocidal. So this is what makes this the whole thing kind of flawed and not clear, is that the deals, because initially Congo wanted to sign this agreement or this peace agreement only on the condition that the Rwanda recalls its troops stationed in DRC. That is what the Congolese government asked Donald Trump. He must impose peace in a way that the Rwandese army and the rebellion must evacuate Congo. Then we can sign a deal between Rwanda, Congo, and the USA. But that didn't happen. That didn't happen. As they were signing the deal, there were guns being heard in eastern part of DRC. The bullets were falling like rain on the populations. People's lives are in jeopardy, in dangers. Kids cannot go to school. The eastern part of Congo is still under occupation, though the peace deal is being signed. So this is what makes this thing impossible. And to explain that, the condition that Rwandese government has posed before it calls back its troops from DRC is that Congo must get rid of the Hutu genocidal who flew from Rwanda in 1994, who are who live in DRC. I don't know what age these people were in 1994, and what is, I mean, how old they are today, and if they are still able to fight. But the point is, Rwanda requests that the Congo must firstly get rid of this Hutu genocidal. But mind you, the region in which this supposed Hutu genocidal are supposed to be is the same region under the control of Rwandese-backed rebellion of M23, which makes it impossible for the Congo to get rid of them, because Congolese army cannot go through that region because it's in the control or under the control of Rwanda, right, through its soldiers or through its rebels. So, but Congo need to get rid of those Hutu people before Rwanda can call back its army from the territory of the DRC. So you understand that this is an impossible mission, an impossible task given to the Congolese government. Before we can talk about any peace, Congo must get rid of the people who are in the region controlled by the rebels. And from the whole setting, you could see that the Congolese president was not happy signing that things. There was not even a handshake between the two leaders, which signifies the level of tension between these two people, and which makes the whole peace deal kind of vulnerable. And this leads me to my last question of what can we expect in the next coming days? And I think we can still expect the very same things that we have seen in the Congo in the past days and past years: the killing, the destruction, the looting, the exploitation of the resources, so forth and so on. Simply because there is no honesty, there is no real commitment to bring peace in this part of the country. The commitment which is there is to take control, to dominate, and to oppress, as I've explained from the beginning. And this is one of the important things that we need to think about as Pan-Africanists. We want Africa to unite, but some of African leaders are still writing their CVs to be agents of American hegemony in Africa. And the American hegemony in Africa always manifests itself through the killing, the destruction, and the domination of African people. So if a leader in Africa wants to be an agent of America or of American global geopolitics or global strategy, that means that leader wants to be himself the destroyer of other African people, because he wants to be the arm of American hegemony in the region. So he has to do what Americans are supposed to do: destroying, unaliving, looting, exploiting, dominating, and oppressing. And this is what we are seeing right now being done by Paul Kagame as the arm of American hegemony on the continent. And Africa that we want, we never emerge out of this situation. We need to come to our sense to understand that we have to unite in order to fight the common enemy, which is the imperialism, not to be at the same time the agents of the same imperialism while we want to fight against that imperialism. That is not going to work. So I think the way forward is for African leaders to be responsible, to take their responsibilities, not to be bouncing every time the Western powers call them to jump, but have to be responsible to take charge of Africa in order to bring the sustainable, the lasting peace that we want to see in that region. I hope with these words I've brought some clarity on what is happening in DRC. And I thank you for your time. Peace and love, freedom and decolonization to all African people. We'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.